also giving trust in promoting the innovation and entrepreneurial work. So, with the initiative of MHRD's Innovation Cell, along with many other higher education institutes, Vishwanath College has also started the Institutional Innovation Cell in the year 2019 with a view to cater the need of young minds to boost their innovative capabilities and to inculcate a research and entrepreneurial environment in society. With this idea, IIT Vishwanath College is very much active in its mission and vision, and we have organized various workshops, industry academia meet, etc. But unfortunately, this pandemic situation has triggered a pause button to our usual activities and our schedule. But definitely, it has also paved a way in the form of e-meetings, etc. So we are organizing different webinars. Actually, a webinar series we are organizing, and this webinar is the second of its kind. So in this situation, definitely this pandemic condition has pushed us back in terms of economy and in terms of normal life. So to get rid of this situation, we have to think forward to come out of this situation. And with a view to meet these challenges, IIT Vishwanath College has organized this series, and this is the second series, as I have already mentioned. This is the second webinar of the series. So before going to the main session, now I request our respected principal, Dr. Pintamani Sharma sir, to give his welcome speech. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Devasis. A very good morning to everybody. Friends, I warmly welcome you all to this National Power Seminar on the topic Promoting Innovation, Intellectual Property Rights and Startups in Higher Education Institutions, some post-COVID concerns, organized by Institutions Innovation Council, Vishwanath College. Friends, it gives me immense pleasure to say that Vishwanath College is celebrating its Diamond Jubilee this year, and we have shouldered enormous responsibilities for the benefit of students as well as the faculties by organizing several academic and other skill-related activities. Friends, you know, Vishwanath College is one of the leading premier institutes of Assam, catering to the needs of students, and it has 17 it offers 17 subjects with honors and PG in Assamese as well. I'm indeed elated to share that our college has organized 4 international webinars and 6 national webinars during this pandemic situation. We have picked up the most pertinent issues of present time, including today's one, while organizing such power seminars. Entrepreneurs are no doubt catalysts of change and innovation. The entrepreneurial growth in our country has triggered a host of economic benefits together with new businesses, new jobs, and new products and services. With the changing economic circumstances of the country, where the government is more interested in generating entrepreneurial activities rather than promoting job security in the government sector, the growing concerns towards innovation and startups as a goal of higher educational institutions can be an ideal step in securing financial future of the students. Therefore, I must appreciate the institution's Innovation Council of my college for choosing such a relevant topic of the contemporary time. I would like to express my gratitude to most respected Professor Shimun Kumar Nath, HOD Department of Commerce from Dibrugarh University, for sparing his valuable time with us today as resource person on this topic. I am pretty confident that his speech will definitely enrich our participants. I once again welcome you to this power seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, before going to the main session, I'd like to introduce our resource person to all the participants. We are very much lucky that we have among us the resource person, Dr. Simon Kumar Nath. Sir is the head of the Department of Commerce of Dibrugarh University, Assam. He has 4 years of corporate experience and 15 years of teaching experience. Dr. Nath sir has presented more than 100 national and international seminar papers, and he has published more than 64 papers in various research journals of repute so far. He has produced 7 PhD and 22 MPhil scholars, and many students are still working with him for their degrees. Sir has specialization in entrepreneurial finance, HRD, customer psychology, and consumers behavior. He has been taking the responsibility as the coordinator of the Center of Entry into Services as well as Entrepreneurship and Skill Development Cell. The research areas of Dr. Nath sir definitely proves that he is the best suitable person for this session. Now, I request Dr. Nath sir to give his valuable talk and enlighten us in this session. Over to you, Nath sir.
Thank you. The sentence of the year. Am I audible and visible? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to express my sincere gratitude to the principal of the college, Dr. Sharma. And along with that, I would like to express my special thanks to Dr. Devashish for such a wonderful introduction of me, though I am not that type of a person to be introduced for. And I would also like to thank all the organizers, the team of Vishwanath College for giving me a chance to speak on this particular important topic, important issue in this particular webinar. And at the same time, I welcome all the participants across the globe to this particular webinar. Moving on to my topic, I would like to go with my slides. I would like to present my screen, but before that, may I request Mr. Ranbir Rajput to kindly stop sharing your screen, please. Mr. Ranbir Rajput, can you hear me? Mr. Rajput, please stop sharing your presentation, because otherwise I would not be in a position to share my screen. Thank you. Is it visible?
Yes.
Is it visible?
Slides are not coming, sir.
Right now?
No, it is coming, sir.
It's coming? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now, the topic is promoting innovations, intellectual property rights, and startups in higher educational institutions. And obviously, we have to discuss this particular topic with post-COVID concerns now. Now, before actually moving on to the main topic, I just want to share in front of you 3 things. Like in my presentation, I will start up with what we were. I mean, before that particular pandemic situation, and then during the pandemic situation, the present situation, that what we are right now. And then after the pandemic situations, what it will be, what will be our future. Based on that only, the entire presentation will be carried on. So moving on, that what actually right now we were before the pandemic situation. That is what we have to highlight it first. Now, to be very honest, on the 31st of December 2019, when we were actually celebrating the New Year Eve, and then we were about to welcome the New Year 2020, we never actually thought of or expected of ever that this particular year would be such a disastrous one for us. But the thing is that till that particular point of time, when we were enjoying our life, what we have seen that we were basically in a particular economy what is being driven by the market itself, and in most of the time it was more like a digitalization is the basic key for us, but the point is that we never thought that this digitalization would turn out to be a major part of our life later on. But at that point of time, yes, we were enjoying certain digitalization process, especially the related to the banks, or related to the financial transactions, related to the other things. Yes, we were enjoying such things. Then at that point of time, we were also enjoying certain dimensions which were basically changing from those of say 1980s or 90s, because during that particular period of time, during 80s and 90s, we were basically more focused on the savings part. We were focusing on like how we can save out of whatever the purchases that we were making. But after the liberalization period, what we have seen is that we were focusing more on the expenses part. Why? One of our reason is that we have several options of consumptions, and because of that only we were more prompted to go on spending. So that's why our consumption pattern has changed radically from 90s to that of the millennium and to that of till 2000, say 20 early part. We were basically focusing on the consumption pattern as if like it is not only on the essentials but also onto the luxurious products. Like that way we were enjoying our life. But the present situation, after that the lockdown or the declaration that it's a pandemic period because of this COVID-19 disease, so after that obviously the situation had changed a lot for us. When we talk about these present situations, what we have seen that it is very, very critical and uncertain. That is the most important part. Because why it is critical? Many people says it is a critical period, but why it is critical? Because first thing is that it is quite uncertain for us. That when this particular COVID will be over, when this pandemic will be over, whether we can able to survive to this particular situation or not, all these sort of questions, negativities around us, and that's why it is very, very critical as well as crucial point of time for our life. We have seen that there is a phase-wise changes during this particular period, starting with a lockdown. I'm talking about in Indian perspective now. We're starting with a lockdown 1, 2, 3, then again unlock 1, 2, 3, like that way. So we have changed a dramatical change over these particular periods only. And among all these periods, during all these particular periods, what is basically more emphasizing period for us or emphasizing situations for us is what that we have been confined to the four walls. We were asked to be remain inside a home rather than going out. I mean, we have been forced to confine ourselves to the four walls, and the main priority is on the sanitizations, because this particular disease do not, I mean, till now it has no drugs. Of course, there are a lot of experiments is on, and many people, many organizations have started claiming that yes, they have started, they are getting a kind of they are getting some kind of vaccines for combating such kind of diseases, but still it has not yet been commercialized. It has not come to the market yet. So under the situation, ultimately we have no other option but to keep ourselves clean. We have to be sanitized. Uh, excuse me. Uh, did I say anything wrong? Someone is hello. I think someone has forgot to mute their mic. Anyway, uh, yeah. Then what has happened that because since we do not have any drugs in our hands, so we were focusing more on the safety rules first. And by at that particular period of time, during this particular period of time, what has happened is we have become more of an online techie. I mean, we have been forced to do so. We have been forced to be on the online techie period because uh, there were certain people who beforehand never actually thought of to be used to with this kind of online situations, but now they are being forced to accept this particular online part. And that's why I term it as online techie, because we have to be an online techie. And especially if I'm talking about from our academic perspective, we have to make certain adjustments like shifting from the traditional classroom, offline classroom, to that of a virtual classroom. And let me tell you, I mean, with due respect to each and every faculty, but I'm sure that each and every one of us were facing difficulties in doing that kind of adjustments. So yes, we have to do that particular thing. We have to be flexible. We have to bring such kind of changes, and we are accepting such kind of changes. Then during this particular period, what we have seen that there is enormous span of hours in playing the games and the movies on mobile. Now, this is another dimension why actually I'm bringing it to you. I will definitely going to explain this particular point in my later part, but this is important. And as per the statistics also, it has been stated that the consumption or the uses of the games in February 2020 to that of the 31st of 31st of May has gone up by 3 times. Now that is it's a huge jump from one particular point to the another point. So beforehand, if I played only 1 hour, or I spend only 1 hour in playing games, now the average customers is playing 3 hours in of play 3 hours in spending their 3 hours in their games, because we have time. That's what actually we were utilizing it. So that is also a kind of a interesting point. Why it is so interesting point, definitely I will let you know later part. And obviously, this present situation also calls for a larger GB nets. We require more and more GB data sets, because I now even in my home, I can give you the best example that I am also using, or I mean, engaging in such kind of webinars, also hosting different meetings on webinars. So I'm using a lot of internet data set, and then my daughter is also using it for her class, for her tuitions, like that. And my wife, since we are all here back in at home, so that's why she is so delighted that she started looking into different YouTube channels to prepare different dishes for us. Now, I mean, the thing is as such that you find that in total in our home means we require a larger number of GB nets. So that this is, I'm sure that this is not a story of only exclusively in my home. It is a story across many of the houses. So then the present situation also gives us another features that many of the people who are working in different states, especially if I'm talking about India, in different states and in different countries, now they want to come back to their home. Now, why it is essential? Because the point is that it is quite obvious from a one particular psychology that whenever you are facing problem, the first and the foremost people whom you always interested to remember is about your family. Because at any point of time, whether it is a happiest moment or a very depressing moment, you always remember your family members to be along with you. So that's why you always interested to come back to your home. So the thing is that even the government can also prevent in that way. So that's why we have seen that lot many people from who are working in different states or the countries are now back to their home, and that is also something unique in because, and that is basically possible because of this pandemic situation. Now we are now what has happened ultimately, we are now focusing only on essentials. We are simply concentrating more about our groceries, to the manage of the groceries and the vegetables and other things which are very essentials for us. We are only looking into it, but we are not at all interested now to spend our money on any luxurious items. In fact, one of our classic example is that in April 2020, not a single unit being sold by Honda car motors across India. Now that itself actually shows that the fact that people now focusing basically more on the essentials rather than on these luxurious products. So the thing is that now we are in a dilemma, or in a kind of tussle between the health and the economy. Now, whether we need the health first, or should we also concentrate on our economy too? In fact, it is not only our tussles that has been faced by individuals in the country. If you look into the macro level, if you look into the ministry level, everyone is basically facing this kind of situation, with this kind of dilemma. Now, what is our future part? Now, first thing is that yes, it is a in future again we will be into a very critical zone. That is for sure, because what has happened that many economists has already started focusing, and in fact, for a general people like us also, what we can realize that yes, we will going to face a huge recession across the world. So that recessionary effect will always be with us. And the next there is next two elections are also very crucial. I would without actually naming any party or any person concerned, if I just place it in this way, that the next Lok Sabha election of India and the presidency election of US are the two crucial part, because most of the critics, the political critics, they believe that these are the two crucial elections. And if in this particular elections, if the existing ruling party again being elected for the next term, probably that will be the biggest challenge for China, because these are the countries who have initiated with the fact that they are trying to avoid the Chinese products. Now, avoiding a Chinese product is one side, and avoiding a Chinese technology is another aspect that we need to look into. Because we can, if suppose a particular product is being produced in China, and we can avoid buying that particular product, that is okay. But how about those products where inside inbuilt you find that all these Chinese technologies are there? Suppose if I'm talking about your mobile phone, in a mobile phone, if you look into, you'll find that basically the battery, or many of the cases, many of the small parts that is being produced in China. Now, the thing is that since it is made in China, and if we want to avoid Chinese product, in that case, what will happen that we have to avoid by using that particular mobile phone too. So that will be again a big challenge for those giants, those MNCs who are producing all these products. Now, what has happened that if they do not use the Chinese technology, in that case, they have to look into the other technologies. Now, why they are using the Chinese technology? The reason is that the basic reason is that that the manpower is cheaper, and the Chinese technologies are quite cheaper in terms of the value, and at the same time, it is quite handy and quite usable. So now the thing is that the whole world is now at that point of time obviously will be looking into another particular economy which can replace that particular Chinese technology. In that case, of course, many of the people and many of the critics believe that India can able to take up that particular thing, provided if India can develop such kind of technologies. So the thing is that yes, we have such kind of prospects also in our hand. we will be looking into if in future we'll be looking into the consumption behavior. It will not be the same as what we have shown right now. Just before the starting of the pandemic, the way we were using, the way we are consuming a product, now this consumption behavior will be different. During the pandemic it's different because we are focusing on essentials, and in future also you'll find that such consumption pattern will be definitely different. The savings behavior will also be different, because the point is that we always save for a better future. Now if the future is uncertain, then why should I save? Now that is another a kind of psychological state of mind that is emerging among the people across the globe. So the saving behavior will also going to change, and then the change in motives, the motives of buying a product or enjoying our services, everything will be changed. So if we have such kind of differences, if we have going to face such kind of changes, in that case, how a kind of an entrepreneur can cope up with the situation and can convert this kind of uncertainty to an advantageous point is something that we need to discuss upon. Now, the future, when we look into all this kind of developments, probably what we have seen that the future, it is an era of digital. It will be an era of digital economy. Everything will be digitalized, and as I said that probably even our classrooms will be also online. Classrooms will be there, and then we will have the content marketing, because when we are having all this technology in place, so obviously many of us, many of the people, many of the consumers in India, probably they may not be in a position to understand that particular technology. So one has to explain that particular technology before selling the product. So that's why the technology need to be elaborated and made to be lucid and simple to those people. And for that purpose, obviously, the content marketing will be a key. So it will be an era of content marketing, and certain accidental progress will also be there, because as the things will be new, so obviously lot of trial and error methods will be used to go to enter into that particular market. So that's why some accidental progress will be also there. And then it will be an era of ignited minds. Now this is what is very, very important for us as an institution who promotes such kind of entrepreneurial activities. For us, actually, we have to realize this fact that in future it will be more of a ignited minds, because when you will find there will be a lot many uses of technology than that of the offline activities. In that case, uh, the ignited minds means the people who are sharp in doing it, the coding people, the people who can develop different programs, those ignited minds will be very, very essential to meet those particular future demands. And of course, that will be an era of creativity, because you will find a lot many creative work has to be there. Because what has happened, you see, is that whenever a particular product is placed in front of you, first of all, in order to draw that particular attention itself only, you have to have some creative presentations. Otherwise nobody will be interested to to pay attention to that particular product. So if I go by basically the one of a you know uh, marketing, or you can say advertising model, what we call it as IDA model: attention, then interest, or whatever you can call it, then desire, and then action. Now in the entire process actually started with A, that is the attention. Now to draw that particular attention only, we need to have a creative presentation. So if we look into all these things, then ultimately what we have observed is that it is not the future will not be an era of job creation. I mean, it will not be an era of looking into the jobs. Rather, it will be an era of entrepreneurship. So that's why what I believe that in today when we are into this particular webinar, in this platform, when we are discussing on this aspect, I think it is a very timely aspect, and especially I would like to hear here also one who wish to thank Deep Duty for bringing up this particular topic. Now, when we look into this invention, I mean, when we talk about the entrepreneurship, we need to think about two aspects. One is that they have to bring a newer idea, and the second thing is that it has to be something which is usable, and that will have a positive impact on the society. So when we talk about like this, one concept what actually comes to our mind is basically the invention. Now, what is an invention? If we go by the definitions as per the different IPR Act, you will find across the globe. If I look into, then you'll find that any new or useful process or method, machine or apparatus, articles of manufacture. Now, I mean, the definition actually never talks about what is exactly an invention, but rather, they were focusing on the areas where it can be. I mean, one can have the inventions. Talking about any new, obviously, yes, whenever we talk about the invention, we always talk about new things to be, invented, and it should be useful. The process or method should be it may be even in case of a service oriented thing. In that case, the invention may be in the process itself or the method itself, or if it is a manufacturing part, in that case the invention can be of the machines or the apparatus, or maybe the article of manufacture. So these are what, talking about the invention as defined in those different or various acts. But along with that, what they have incorporated the last part, that is improvement of any of the above. So I mean, any of the above items, if there is any sort of improvements into it, then that is also termed as invention. Now, let me tell you, the thing is that in none of the, till recently, if you just avoid the recent, amendments of the acts, but if you look into the previous acts, in none of the acts, there was anywhere the word innovation has been featured. Rather, it was all about inventions, and inventions. But along with the inventions, they incorporated the last point, what is how shown in this particular slide. You might have seen that this is improvements of any of the above. Now, that is where the innovations comes. You have to improvise whatever new useful process, methods, or machine apparatus, articles of manufacture anywhere. If you bring any kind of improvisations, then that is also being covered under the IPR. That is what they have said. But ultimately, that is where the concept of innovations appears. Now, if I talk about the intellectual property rights, it's a legal rights. But remember, one thing, which is very very important in this particular definition is the legal rights granted with the aim to protect the creation of the intellect. Now, the intellectual person, who have certain creations, or has a specific creation. Now, that creation, has to be protected, and for that purpose, a legal right has been granted to that particular person, and this is where the IPR stands about. Now, why actually it is required? Because what has happened that many a times we have a situation, especially if I'm talking about the human psychology, that many people normally follows others. They are not the creators. They never actually take the front position. They always try to follow someone, and at the same time, while following it, if something is successful, then they always try to take the credit to themselves only, rather than giving the credit to the person to whom actually they have followed. So this is a basically a common human psychology that is
Also,
prevailing across, and for that purpose, yes, hello, Sa- hello,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yes. yeah, someone have a question or what? Like,
No, no, no. You can carry on,
I
sir.
can take up, I can, yeah, I can take up questions after the presentation. Okay.
Yes, sure, sir. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, the point is, when you are not I mean, you are following someone, and at the same time you say that, when you are succeeded, you say that yes, this is my own creation or something like that. If you want to take up the credit, in that case, obviously, the original person will always be deprived of his or her creation. And for that purpose only, the need was there that yes, they should be given some legal rights to protect their work. And that's why the IPR actually came into the picture. But now, if I talk about the IPR, there are so many different ways through which IPRs are being protected. We have patents, we have designs, we have trademark, copyright, and then geographical indicators. Well, and then there will be many in that particular list. But if I just try to focus here, because since our discussion is primarily on basically the entrepreneurial aspect, so the first 2 points is more very important for them rather than the next two, because the trademark copyright is once you have already established your business, and then after that you have to have this trademark, and then the copyright will be a subject matter. And geographical indicators is basically it's not basically one's own individual right, rather it is a right to the particular place, to the society at large, specific society at large. And so that's why these are something which is basically on a broader perspective. But if I'm talking about a individual, in that case, yes, we are focusing on the patents to protect our creativity. And then we have certain creativities which are basically more into the design part. So in that case also, we are focusing on protecting those designs. So if I talk about these patents, a patent is basically an exclusive monopoly granted by the government of an inventor over his inventions for a limited period of time. Now, this is what are basically a definition that we normally finds whenever we go through the different taxes, different tax related to the patents. Now, when we go through all these points, what is important in this entire line is that it is being granted, his invention is being granted for limited period of time. Because what has happened is that he has, no doubt, he has developed something, he or she has developed certain things, and that is new maybe. But then what has happened, by looking at that, some more people will be working to improvise that particular thing. Because in this particular world, whatever you bring it, there will be advantages and there will be some disadvantages also. You cannot say that I will or I have developed a particular product or a service which has only advantages, do not have any disadvantages. Nobody claim like that. So now what has happened, that when we have the disadvantage, we can see the disadvantages. In that case only, the people will work onto it, and then they will bring up some improvised version. And a classic example is in front of us, this Google Meet. The person who was working with this Google Meet, he has pointed out that there are certain shortcomings out there, but then the Google has never actually shown any sort of interest to him. And that's why the person has gone out from, or come out from this particular company, Google company, and started his own own product, which is now is a kind of a blockbuster across, that is called Zoom. So the thing is that you see is that there are certain shortcomings in Google Meet, for which to look into that particular shortcomings only, the certain improvisations were made, and then Zoom is presented in front of us. Now, like that way, what you find is that every person, whenever you have a kind of an invention, it will obviously will be followed by certain innovations also into onto that product or the services. Now, because of that only, what you find that the the inventions cannot be protected or cannot be kept protected for a long period of time. It has to be given with a certain specific period, because after that it may be renewed. That is one side of the coin. But otherwise, maybe, along with that particular product, it may be obsoleted because a newer versions may come into the market. So that's why what has happened, you see, is that over his or her invention for a limited period of time. However, if I talk about in the modern situation, the term patent usually refers to the right granted to anyone who invents any new, useful, and non-obvious process, machine, articles of manufacture, or consumption of metals. So, the definition itself wants to give a kind of a wide range, wide flexibility through which you can go for claiming your patents. Now, what can be patented is any invention which must be non-obvious. I mean, if something is very, very obvious, in that case, that is not an invention. So it has to be a non-obvious activity, novel one. That is very, very important, that it has to be novel one. Then after that, capable of industrial applications, because it should not be something which is to be used only in one or two specific places. It's not like that. It has to be capable of industrial applications, and it must be declared as non-patentable under any patent act. If in any of the specific patent act, by going through, if it is being stated that it is non-patentable, in that case that cannot be again claimed to be patented in another act. So this is what all about the patent. I'm just giving a very brief idea about this patent part, especially for because in this particular webinar, what I have seen is that we have a mixture of participants. Some are basically students, some are basically looking into such kind of entrepreneurial activities, some are from the faculties, and some are from very senior positions. So it is very, very difficult actually to address each and every segment of the participants, but I'll try to basically focus more onto the younger minds, because they are the people who will take this particular India ahead. So that's why I'm giving most of the inputs basically for this younger lot. Now, another thing, when I said what can be patented, the next question obviously will be in your mind, that what cannot be patented. So anything against the universal law cannot be patented, because this is a quite natural thing, that if somebody says against the universal law, then it is not at all acceptable unless and until it is to be proved of. So till the point, if it is not being proved, we cannot accept it, or we cannot readily accept that particular point. Classic examples are in front of us, because if you look into many of those inventions that has been made in Europe, for that the people were facing lot many such kind of because their inventions were against the universal law. So that's why people were not accepting them. Galileo as a classic example. So like that way, you'll find that the business schemes cannot be patented, because that schemes keep on changing, and many a times it is also considered as a secret document for one for an organization. So that's why the business schemes is not being patented. We cannot patent the business schemes. The mathematical methods cannot be. I'm not talking about the formula. Mathematical methods, it cannot be patented. And then any artistic creation is also not to be patented for, because that particular expressions may keep on changing, because the same artist cannot draw the same picture as it is in the next time, because there are so many newer things may come up. So under the situations, it is very, very flexible. It cannot be patented in a way. So that's why the artistic creations are also not taken into consideration under the subject matter of patenting. Now, if I talk about the protection scenario across the world, perhaps what we have seen, that there is a kind of a differences between the the developing nations protection scenario to that of a developed nations protection scenario. And most of the time, the developed countries are usually they try to dominate it over the this developing countries. In a very recently one of our webinar when we were when I was acting as a resource person, it was probably hosted by Don Bosco College, Golaghat. There also we had a discussion on such kind of protection scenario. And what we have observed that even the people were also putting up certain queries that why such kind of differences is there. So I mean, even here also I would like to reiterate the point that when you are having a kind of a dominating attitude altogether, then obviously we'll always going to have such kind of differentiations. As I would love to give you one very small example that this Shakespeare was born. Probably it has born way after Kalidas, but still, when we the people addresses the Kalidas, if they say that the Kalidas is the Shakespeare of East, but why not the other way around? Why we can't say that the Shakespeare should be termed as the Kalidas of the West? But then we never have this kind of things because the attitude itself is as such that we always follow the developed nations. The things what has the developed nation has said, we the developing nations always follows, and because of that, when you find that in the protection scenario also there are so much of differences. The domination part is there, and why such kind of domination is being allowed? If you look back to to the points and analyze it, then probably you'll find that we the people do not have any kind of awareness level. I mean, our awareness level is very awfully, you can say, low when it comes to the protection scenario. We do not know anything about it, and that's why, because we are lacking behind, or because of that only probably we are not having an effective protection scenario in the developing countries. We have a weak legal protections also, because in our country, if I talk about specifically in Indian situation, we'll find that there are so many acts are being enacted and in and around this IPR situation, and because of that only you'll find that most of the acts are overlapping each other, and for that it was quite confusing. Actually, ultimately it is quite confusing, and we literally find that because of such kind of weaknesses only, the proper protection is not being it is not being resorted in countries like India. Now, on the contrary, if you look into the developed countries, you will find that there is a clarity, in their approaches. The regional covenant is very strong out there, and then the influences, their influences, is very strong. I mean, whenever there is a kind of a protection requirement, in that case they could easily influence the others to say, to justify that yes, we need a protection for this particular product or the services or anything of that sort. So such kind of convincing part is very strong in those countries, which actually we do not have specifically in developing countries. And having said that, actually I'm not generalizing everything, but then if you look into the developments, probably you can at least have a one kind of a scenario what actually I just want to highlight in front of you. And now these are some of the legal frameworks. As I said that in India also we have a certain uh, legal framework related to the IPR. It started even way back in 1856, the Act of 1856 on protection of invention. Then 1911 Indian Patents and Design Act was enacted. In 1970, the Patent Act was revised, and only processed patents were taken into consideration, not the other one. And protection was mainly dominating with the two different items, food and the drugs. And for that, 14 years and a 7 years of protection period has been mostly being highlighted. Then when India the signs these TRIPS, then after that in 1999 you find a process and product patents in all the fields, because Along with that process, the product patents is also becoming important. So from 99 to 2004, there were so many amendments being brought, and ultimately in 2005 we have the Indian Patent Act of 2005. These are basically some I mean information that is necessary for us actually to know about the legal side of this IPR part. I'm sure like now you're getting very much bored with all this, talks. So I just want to share with you one of a specific assignment, which actually I have even tried in my previous webinar. So if someone is actually out here, so probably, you may find it a duplicacy of the process, but still I believe like this is very, very interesting that we have to go with this assignment. Now I want to show you that what you might have seen this particular picture, and she is a very famous folk artist, Ila Arun. And I want to actually show you one particular video clips in front of you. Now, if you just look into this video clips and see it very carefully, then after that, actually, I will explain to you. May I request the host also to just to confirm that whether the videos and the audios are coming up or not. I'm just playing it over now. Is it coming?
Yeah, it is coming, sir. It is coming.
It's coming, huh?
Yeah, it is coming. Video is also coming.
Video is not coming.
It is coming, sir. Video is coming.
Sound?
Yeah, sound is also coming.
Okay. Can you please confirm now whether you have seen the video, both the video as well as the sound?
Yes. Yes, both we can see, sir.
Hello?
Yes, both are coming clearly, sir.
Yes?
Yes,
yeah,
sir. Both
you
are
can see
coming. Yes,
both. Okay, fine. Now, yes, now you were zooming around that particular song, which you have heard many a times, probably during your holy festival. Now, what is happening? You see that in this particular video clips, as I said, that you should see the clips very carefully. The song is basically being sang by Ila Arun in a different album. Okay. Now, in this particular video, what they were making some kind of DJs. They incorporated certain DJs into it, and then they brought this particular video to the market. Now, Ila Arun, as she said that they have not taken any permission for her to reproduce that particular song in another video. For that, she went to the court. Now, the other party, what they have said is that we are not actually reproducing her song. Rather, what we have seen, perhaps you might have also seen in the video, that what we are trying to show here is that the village people are playing Holi, And while playing Holi, they were playing the Ilaurus song. So where actually we are not claiming that this is our own production. We are just producing something which is actually out there in that particular village. The people were playing it, and they were playing with to the tune of Ila Orun's that music. So that's why they are doing it. So there were a lot of discussions on this particular matter in the court, and finally you will be starting to get the particular result that the court says that this particular case itself is nullified. Why? The reason is that the song which has been sang by although it has been voiced by basically Ila Arun, is a folk song, and folk song cannot be patented, cannot be copyrighted, because the origin of folk song is not known. So you may give your voice. I mean, many of you can give your voice, but it is not your own creation. So, so under the situations, this particular claim itself is not valid. So you see that in Indian situations, when we are looking into all these aspects, you will find that there are certain classical examples in front of us which goes to the court, and ultimately the result came out in a totally different way. So this is what is very, very important for us, that we have to be very much careful that when we are claiming a kind of a content, claiming a kind of a protection, in that case we have to look into all these aspects, which is not basically what it was like unobvious situation. So this is what the important part is. I do not know how you like it, but this is interesting case that we have come across, and there are plenty. Let me tell you, there are plenty of such kind of cases across us. Now the point is that what what you understand basically an entrepreneur and about a businessman, is it like two different item, two different aspects, or is it like same? Now, just again coming back to those young students, let me tell you that when you want to be an entrepreneur, it is something totally different from a businessman part, because both are taking the risk, no doubt, but the entrepreneurs are taking the initial risk, which needs, I mean, which has lot many uncertainties, and a businessman always takes a calculative risk. They also take the risk, but then they always take the calculative risk. Now, the thing is that how we are going ahead is again depends on those those meeting with those uncertainties. And if you can meet with this kind of uncertainties, if you have that particular zeal of meeting that and that thing, that uncertainty, yes, you can be a good entrepreneur. Now obviously if I talk about an entrepreneur, the qualities of entrepreneur, previously some people people believes that yes, entrepreneurs are basically born, not made, sort of they have a such kind of notion that the people who are basically entered, they are actually god gifted, so they are being made for becoming an entrepreneur. People have that kind of a thought, but later on it is not like that. Today we talk about it can be made, anyone can be made. And then obviously some of the things what has been highlighted by the Harvard school is about you have to have a good communication skill, you have to have these that they have given a huge amount of list. But let me tell you, what actually they have not taught in Harvard school is more important for you to understand. As an entrepreneur, first and the foremost thing is what, that you have to develop a very strong psychological set of mind, and for that purpose you have to have the R's in your mind. You need to have the R's, something to do. You have to have that particular R's in your mind. And then next is what, that you require that the thing is that I have to do this. I mean, you have to be a desperate one. Once you have the need recognition, I mean, you have a feeling that yes, I need to do something, you have the R's in your mind to do something. Next thing is that whatever you want to do it, you have to be sure that yes, I have to do this. It is not like, I have tried once or twice and I failed, and then after that I will give it up. No, not like that. You have to be desperate. And the third one is what? That, why you are doing all these things? Because you are not doing it for the society straight away. You are doing it to satisfy your physiological needs. Physiological needs stands for the food, the clothes, and the shelter. Because till now you are with your parents, but now it is you have to establish yourself. So you are supposed to have all these basic needs to fulfill your basic needs. And for that purpose, ultimately, again, a cyclical effect, it will go to develop your hours to do so. And then after that, you become desperate to do so. And why you are desperate to do so? Because first of all, you have to satisfy your physiological needs. Finding it difficult, guys? Well, you need to just remember three different movies. See, I'm not a a kind of a person who can give the very latest movies example. I'm Let me tell you, I'm also not a Shah Rukh Khan's follower. But you just have to remember three different movies. One is Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Yes, I need to have something in my mind, right? That ours should be there in your mind. Then Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge is the basically the particular name of the movie. But for me, I would say that Dilwale Dulhania Lekar Hi Jayenge. That desperation should be there with you. And then a relatively old movie, Roti Kapra or Makan. Yes, to satisfy these three things only, I have to be out there. So if you can remember these three, yes, you can start up your particular mindset to become a good entrepreneur. Is it simple? Isn't it? Yeah. Now the future. You see, the startup process, which is basically a kind of a process that has been initiated by the government of India to act like a incubated person, or the mentoring in between prospects to meeting up with their requirements and then to go ahead in the entrepreneurial field. And for that purpose, system of activities we have to involve in mapping the creativity to need and the both in to economic value. Because you see that many of the times we have certain needs in our mind. I mean, needs are in economics it has been stated that needs are unlimited. I mean, it cannot be satisfied. I mean, you cannot satisfy each and every need. I mean, once one particular need is satisfied, you'll find that another need is being propped up. So like that way, what has happened that needs are there, but when we create or when we develop such kind of needs, whether it has an economic value or not, that also has to be looked into. Because if I simply think that I want to develop a kind of a car which can easily move across the, I mean, it can be convert itself to become a aircraft, or it can convert itself to become a watercraft. Like that, I want to develop a car, and that too I want to offer it at 3 lakhs rupees. I mean, if I think in that particular line, at least in the present situation with the present the technology which is need to be incorporated here, if we look into all these aspects, probably it is simply not at all possible on our part to offer that car at 3 lakh rupees. So the thing is that the creativity to need, I mean, that mapping of this creativity and the need creation, and whether it has an economic value or not, everything has to be looked into. And the people, ideas, technologies, that has to be in an order. I mean, we have to connect each other, the peoples and ideas and the technology. Now, what is the problem, especially in this particular part of the country? I'm not talking about each and every, the country as a whole, because in some of the part of the country, we already have seen that, the entrepreneurial process is always, far above than the other states. So that's why some of the regions are already very, very advanced in the entrepreneurial development part. I'm not bringing that particular, segments into my discussion right now. But if I look into the other aspect, means other states where the entrepreneurial development is not that prominent, in their case, the biggest problem is what? That there is a lack of synchronization. the people, there are peoples are there are ideas are there are certain technologies are there, but everything is very very scattered. Now the thing is that to develop an entrepreneurial state, for that purpose ultimately we need to club up, we need to consider or bring together all these three into one particular umbrella. And since ever since it was not possible, and because or it was not there, I mean not it is not possible, I mean we cannot say it is not possible, but the thing is that since it was not there, and for that purpose only all these developments has taken place, where the institutions are being also being asked to take such kind of responsibility to develop an entrepreneurial environment across the place. And for basically for that purpose only, we were working on this kind of startup process. As Dr. Devasis has already stated that I am also involved into the entrepreneurial and skill development cell of my university. So there also we are basically working on these startups. We are very happy to say that right now we have 5 startups working with the university, which we have actually started in the year 2015. So 5 years, 5 startups. In a way, otherwise you may say that it is hardly only one, on an average one per year. But I believe, like at least on us, on our environment, that is a quite a good number. But I shouldn't stick into that. That is what always I'm thinking about. Uh, but the thing, what actually the advantages out there when a particular entrepreneur is linked with the university or the college is what, that first of all, jobs are basically is a measure of success, but then they are not basically a factor of the growth. The jobs are basically considered as a factor of growth, but then they are not being considered as a measure of success. Ultimately, the entrepreneurial development, if it is there in that in and around that particular society, that is actually being considered as a measure of success, because that creates jobs again, that creates economic values. Now when you are so first of all, actually that particular matter, that particular incubation is being made to all these budding and startup entrepreneurs who actually wants to venture into. And and since they have maybe they have certain idea, maybe they have certain technology, but then it is not being properly coordinated. In that case, if they come to the university or the colleges, and where this sort of incubation facility is there, in that case they will, first of all they will learn about this part, that yes, why I need this. Because many of if I just come back to a very small segment of, especially if I'm talking about Assam, the state of Assam, in that case you'll find that many parents still believe that the job is should be the number one, and entrepreneurs may be the last, or the least position. And they never actually say or introduce their son or the daughter, if their son or daughter is having some doing some business. In that case, they never try to introduce with a very open heart. But then if he or she is working, even if it is on a very fourth grade position of a, say, big PSU or something like that, even that, in that case also they introduce their son and the daughter in a very open hearted way. Now that is a kind of a mental disorder that we always have. I should not, right now at least I should use the term disorder, but I'm so sorry to use such a strong word here. But this is a kind of a problem that we are facing across in Assam. And I'm sure like it may be a case for many of the the other part of the country also. So, and for that purpose, first of all, we have to make the things understandable, make the particular parties, the students basically who are coming forward to do some entrepreneurial activity, to make them understand about the fact that you have to change your attitude, you have to change all these mindsets, that jobs it's not basically a measure of success. It is just a factor of growth. But then, once you do a entrepreneurial activity, once you start up certain things, then it's a measure of success. And then the first sale, I mean, if they are linked up with all these university or colleges, their first sale is very, very easy, because the people, the institution, they themselves buy the particular product or the services which has been incubated in their incubation cell. Then reputation and credibility is also something which is very important, because when we are doing a kind of a business, first of all, one point is sure that whenever you are into a business, the trust is the first factor. You have to create that particular trust. Now, there are so many situations where people are not having enough of trust to the new players. And if you have such kind of situations, probably linking with a college or linking with a university can help you out to develop such kind of reputations and the credibilities, and that also ultimately creates certain trust among the customers or the consumers part. Then it also has a, I mean, since it is a long lasting process, so the survival period is also something one can trust of. Because if you do not have that desperation, what I was referring to, in that case the survival part is again a questionable part. Because if you are not desperate, you cannot continue. And if there is a lack of such kind of situation emerges, in that case at least the college or the university, they can take up, they can again bring those particular persons back from psychological perspective or financial perspective, and then to enable them to survive in the particular market. So that is the advantage one can have. And what has happened, you see, is that when they were basically the students, so they were doing different class projects. Then they have different clubs, unions, labs, cafes, and hallways, whatever is out there. At every point, actually, such kind of entrepreneurial ideas can be generated. I mean, one can easily find it out that who has the potential and who do not have the potential. So that once you find out from an informal approach, then you can convert into a formal approach where we have the technical transfers or requirement, whatever is required, the technical know-hows that has to be made available. Suppose especially if something related to a very scientific matters, like a pharmaceutical product, or maybe a fertilizer or something, in that case we have to provide them the lab facilities. So like that way, the formal if they've been brought to the formal approach, and technical supports we are providing, and then the institution may provide the training programs, and then one of the faculty may be appointed as an incubator to that, being attached to that particular student, the budding startups. So like that way we can think about. And then we can have the catalyst programs, then entrepreneurs in residence. Now this is one of our program which we are regularly doing it at our university, and perhaps this is also a need of the hour, because when the budding students, when they actually see some live entrepreneurs, and when they were sharing their experiences with them, obviously that motivates them a lot. And that is why we bring certain entrepreneurs, the very young budding entrepreneurs to the class, and give a deliver certain lectures on their experiences about how they have developed their business. And that really creates a huge amount of motivational as point to the students. Now long form mentoring is required, because mentoring is something which we have to provide. Here in this particular process, we are not basically a teacher, but then we are a mentor. So we have to provide the mentors of all sort of aspects. Yes, at certain point of time, certain things are there which is not basically my cup of tea. In that case, I can refer to someone else to do that particular mentoring part. So like that way, such kind of things are there, and then the ecosystems and everything has to be maintained. The networks has to be provided to them. Now, in such kind of felicitation policies, what we can do is that we can think about explain how the institutions can address these academic and behavioral problems, because what has happened you see is that uh, there is always a kind of a tussle between the academic activities and that of an entrepreneurial or the behavior, such kind of activities. Then some traditional parents, they normally believe that I'm sending my son just I'm sending my daughter to the institution for the academic purpose, and why they keep on involving my son or the daughter to do certain business. I mean, this is not the thing that they are supposed to do. So some people may have such kind of notions, and because of that only, the first of all, the student, the candidate is being affected very badly, because they need to now balance between those academic activities, their entrepreneurial activities, and somewhere the behavioral problems emerges. So that is what actually we have to, I mean, as an incubator center, we need to actually focus on to that aspect. Then outline the institution's policies regarding the tardiness, walk alone, and or walk together, and discipline. Now, out of all these things, we need to make the those incubator, those the prospects, one thing for sure, that they have to understand one point, that if you really walk, walk a bit, in that case you can walk alone, but if you want to walk far, then you have to walk together. Now that is that particular sayings has to be inculcated in their mindset, that you see, you may feel that okay, today if I have one particular idea, and you feel that that idea, if I reveal it, in that case it will be copied. So under the situation, I mean, you will never end up revealing that particular idea in front of anybody, and as a result, ultimately, the incubation process will not be there on that particular idea. So for that purpose, one has to have a trust, and then they have to share with it, then only one can understand. Now this is one thing what actually right now in many a cases, most of the institutions having such kind of startup cells, they were facing, because they say that even we do some sort of competitions, even we organize different shows and all this, and where we invite those people to showcase their ideas, but we got very less entries. It is not that they do not have the ideas, they have the ideas, but then they always have a fear that if I display it in front of everyone, then somebody will copy my particular idea. Now at the initial stage, obviously it is not something that to be patented for. So in that way you are not being protected, so you are having lot many suspicion over that particular aspect. So that's why the students are not coming up. Now the thing you see is that yes, this is a big problem, but we have to let the people, we have to let the students to understand one point, that uh, it goes with a very simple example, that if you have one apple and I'm also having on one apple, and on one particular day if I just want to share each other, then what has happened at the end of the day, both of us actually ended up eating only one apple. It is hardly matters that whether that apple was of yours or mine, right? At the same time, on the other day, on other hand, if we just consider another case, that you have one idea and I have one idea, and on one particular day we decided to share the idea of each other. What has happened at the end of the day, both of us are having two ideas. Now that is the beauty of sharing. This is what actually we need to inculcate into the mindset of those students, so that they will come up with their ideas, and that ideas, with that ideas only, the entire incubation process will start. Now, where I mean, we have to have certain policies, like at what on what are the grounds where we can cancel the incubation part for specific, what are the reasons that has to be highlighted. Then what will be the emergency procedures that has to be followed. Then transition, during the transition period, like, we have uh, found that yes, this idea can be converted for a commercial proposition. So now people will be working onto it till the point when it will reach to the market. So during this particular transition period, only how that what are the things that one has to do, like they have to give reports, they have to showcase their developments time, on a periodical note. Everything has to be highlighted, that sort of policy has to be prepared. Then after institution activities, because what has happened, you see that this is a very vital point. In many of our cases, if I'm talking about the universities, hardly 2 years. If I talk about an UG course, it is about 3 years. If I just taking aside all the professional courses, in that case, what has happened, you see that when a particular person develops, right from the idea stage to the level of commercialization they are developing, during that particular process of time, they may, cover their entire educational term. Means like 2 years is over or the 3 years is over. Then after that, what next? Does it mean that okay, 2 years till the time 2 years you have to establish yourself in the market? If you fail to, means it is all over, gone? No, it's not like that. We have to be with them. We have to be with them. So in that case, after those, after once you completed your academic part, in that case, what sort of activities that you have to do, those things actually you have to look into. Yes, the thing is that it is not only that within the institution what you are doing, after once you go back to your home, what you are doing, it is not like that. I'm not talking about that particular after institution activities, what has been basically featured in the usually in the school calendars. I'm not talking about that. We are talking about that particular point that yes, we have passed one particular course, then after that obviously I have to go to another institution, but then my incubation is in this particular institution. So what should be the policy? Should I attach to this one, or should I been I've been transferred to the another one, the one where I will take the admission in a higher education, higher qualification for obtaining that higher qualification. If I join another institution, in that case, whether my this particular incubation process will be transferred to them or what? Everything has to be clearly spelled it out. And then what kind of volunteering process will be there, that also has to be spelled out, because voluntary, people always on a psychological note, they says that yes, I'm ready to help you out, I'm ready for it. But ultimately what has happened, it is not about the readiness. Ultimately you will find that that volunteering case is only a kind of a you can say use of words. They are literally not coming for any such kind of voluntary part. So that's why one has to have a very very clear cut policy that in which particular areas that such kind of volunteering can be done. Now, yeah, the existing entrepreneurs can be can be involved in this particular process, and they can be considered as in the volunteer programs, or they can be considered as a member of the advisory councils like that. And at the same time, it is not about simply taking them up, but you have to have a kind of a sign up sheets. Means like it has to be on pen and paper. Then only the existing entrepreneurs will have the can understand that yes, I have the responsibility, and that's why they have to come, and then they have to involve into such kind of project. Otherwise, they will say that on a one day, they may say that out of things, they will say that out of emotions, they say, okay sir, I will definitely do for you. But then the next day only they will say that sorry sir, I don't have enough of time to do so. So that's why, first of all, yes, you are ready to do it. So on what are the areas you are ready to do it? Let it be on pen and paper. That has to be involved. Such kind of things should be there so that the persons can be involved into the incubation process. Hello, hello.
স্যার কওক শুনি আছো।
Okay, no, but there was a kind of a sound as if like it's discontinued. Anyway, then next, what is important in our in doing this kind of institutional activities is what that we have to develop certain handouts, because in most of the cases the parents, I mean, we need to actually work with the parents apparently, because our social system is as such that still our children are very much attached to the parents. So that's why as usual that English happens to be their second language, so we have to translate those policies into local language, and then it has to be circulated to the parents also, so that they can at least understand that uh, I mean, what is out there, what actually things are happening inside the institution with their words, because they were always in a doubt. They were always in a confusion state that I always, we usually send our children for taking academic activities, but then in there they were talking about some entrepreneurial activities. I mean, we are quite confused about it. So for that's why, in order to assure them that whatever the things are happening, you should know about it, and for that purpose we have to convert all these handouts into say local language, and a list of institutions, phone numbers, email address, websites, everything has to be mentioned there. And the incubation policy, what I have already explained to you, all these policies has to be attached with it, so that they can understand that what are the policies that we are using for incubating the children's the students. And then of course, along with that, our feedback form, that I mean, if they wish, they can fill it up and then they can submit it back to you. So like that way, we need to create a kind of an environment, an
Sir,
environment.
sir, sorry for interruption. Actually,
Yes.
the meeting is scheduled up to 1:15. So, please, sir, you try to sum up.
Yeah. I'm actually into this last slide only. So
Okay, okay,
definitely,
okay.
I would like to sum it up here. Is that
Yeah.
so? We need to create this kind of an environment, in the environment where this kind of situation. I mean, where we can develop the entrepreneurial activities, because the this particular pandemic has given us a kind of an idea that yes, we need to work on, we need to actually think about that in future. It is not about a kind of a job searching environment. It will be an environment of development of entrepreneurial part, where digitalization is important. So that's why most of the technological aspect need to be taken care of. And for that purpose, what I believe that the students are very good into it, because now at least everyone would accept on a one point that the way actually I handle my mobile phone and the way my daughter is handling the mobile phone, there is a huge difference. I probably use my mobile phone hardly up to say 20 to 30% of it, of the resources, but whereas they are using 10% of it. So the thing is that they have that particular inclination to accept the new technology. So since they have that particular strive for technology, so we have to just nourish them, we have to just provide them the basics, I mean the supports. And in that case, obviously they will be the future, they will be coming up with a lot of entrepreneurial activities in future. That's it. In fact, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this particular aspect. It's a huge aspect. Yeah, I took a little bit of longer time. I'm so sorry for the organizers that I crossed my particular limit. But then, yes, I'm open for any sort of questions too.
Yes, sir. Actually, we don't have too many questions in the chat box. Firstly, I have a question from Manoj Juti Das. He wants to clear it out from you. Why can't we patent any artistic creation?
Okay, this is a very good question. That why we can't patent any artistic creation. Now artistic creation again has a different kind of definitions. But what actually, in terms of the Indian, Intellectual Property Acts, Property Rights Acts, if you look into, then you find that when a particular artist draw or do certain artistic creations, and then after that, if the person is again being asked to do the same thing, in that case, the two work is not similar to each other. So that is the basic reason with that, they stated one cannot protect one particular thing, because one thing is that has to be commercialized. Now the thing is that if I just create something and then print it, and then this made many copies and distribute it, it doesn't mean that actually you have a kind of a total protection of your creative part. So that's why the law is as such. But yes, I also fully agree with the point, your concern, that why we should not. I mean, in many of the advanced countries, yes, they have some such kind of protections, but then in Indian cases right now we do not have.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I think it is clear out all the participants. Now we have another question from Pori Ghosh. Is entrepreneurship in the form of cooperative business model a viable option?
Yes. See, the thing is that if I talk about entrepreneurial part, yes, there may be different models with which one can go ahead. So if you talk about a cooperative model, that is also, we can consider, yes, it is viable, but provided one thing is important, that you have to look into these advantages or the demerits of cooperative movements across India. You just have to have a look into it and try to ensure that such kind of demerits should not be there in your particular new venture. If it is like that, in that case, definitely that particular new venture can be a successful one.
Okay, thank you, sir. The last I can entertain from Ruby Das. She is asking, how can we change the mindset of students towards entrepreneurship?
Very tricky question. So yes, it is very difficult. I mean, it's you can say it is difficult, not exactly a very difficult, but it is a difficult point. Difficult to change the mindset of one particular set of people who, for a long period of time, have uh, followed a certain pattern. So to change that particular pattern, yes, it is very difficult actually to do so. But what has happened, you see, is that after, I mean, once they are into, then in that case, we need to think about the different alternative through which actually to be motivated, to motivate them to think about going for an entrepreneurial activity. It should not be as such that, first of all, the basic concept what they normally bring it from from their home is that job should be number one, and entrepreneurship should be the least one. That has to be changed, and for that purpose, what is important, that you have to highlight the advantages of becoming an entrepreneur. The advantages, I mean, there are so many ways you can do it. You can play over with your psychology, you can play over with your approaches towards approaches towards a particular job, or their approaches towards their life. Many ways you can think about it, and then I mean, looking into the particular set of students only, you can design and develop such things, the things through which you can motivate the students. So that's why it is important to know about the students a lot first, and based on that only you can take any sort of strategies to motivate them towards entrepreneurial part, right?
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Pradeep Sahu, just he has a request for you.
Yeah.
He would like to have your email ID so that he can communicate about any query about his own plan.
Okay, so
Okay, you can
yeah,
share it in the chat box.
yeah, I'm sharing it in the chat box.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Now I request Korobi Gogoi madam to kindly sum up the session.
Am I audible,
Yes,
Devasis?
yes, you are audible, madam.
Okay, and thank you, Dr. Devasis. Honorable Principal Sir, Honorable Resource Person Dr. Simon Nath Sir, distinguished fraternities of Vishwanath College and the land participants. Today we are very fortunate to have with us Dr. Simon Nath Sir, HOD and Associate Professor, Department of Commerce, Dibrugarh University. Dr. Nath Sir enlightened us with his valuable speech on promoting innovation, intellectual property rights, and startups in higher education institutions. Started with a market-driven economy during 90s to early 20s, Sir vividly explained how our focuses are changing from several options of consumption to only essential consumption during this critical period of COVID-19 pandemic. People are now focusing on essentials rather than luxuries, and they are in a dilemma in between health and economy. An economic recession period is going to start due to this lockdown, losing of jobs, and of course due to lack of effective demand. Now, giving up the Chinese product which are handy and cheap needs alternative technologies and alternative product. Now, to face these problems and cope with the situation, technology needs to be improved, and there will be a need for innovation or in the entrepreneurial activities. Dr. Nath Sir rightly stated that this is a time for ignited minds. Each productivity needs creative presentation. Future era will be a era of entrepreneurs, not an era of job creation. New creation or innovation as well as usefulness of the invention is the need of the hour. In this context, Nath Sir rightly pointed out the need for intellectual property rights, which can protect the original work of any person or company. IPR, which is refers to creations of the mind, inventions, literary and artistic works, designs and symbols, names and images used in commerce, and IPR is protected in law by patents, copyright and trademarks that enable people to earn recognition or financial benefit from which they invent or create. This intellectual property rights system aims to foster an environment in which creativity and innovation can flourish. So, Sir has explained all the concepts relating to IPR like patents, commodities which can be patented or cannot be patented, various patent acts that are formed in order to offer patents to innovation in a very lucid way. Presenting audio video clips, Dr. Nath Sir explained how in Indian situation we get some classical examples where the claims, some claims are not entertained in case of non-obvious things. While taking about startup process, Dr. Nath Sir stated that each startup activity is involved in mapping creativity to need and both to economic value. We are happy to know that 5 startup activities are started. Sir has rightly pointed out various problems of the startup process relating to sale, reputation and credibility and survival, and also the advantages in formal and informal way. Nath Sir explained the startup process from the institutional perspective and vividly discussed how institutions can face challenges relating to the process of startup. We need to have some policies to cope up the situations. Sir pointed out that institutions need to work with involve the parents regarding the activities by the students and institutions and use the local language to inform them. So we have to provide all the opportunities to our students along with the consciousness regarding IPR. So overall, I think it is a wonderful presentation, very informative, thought-provoking, and yes, very, very systematic too. Now I leave these thoughts for the continued consideration of the galaxy of distinguished scholars and faculty members gathered here. Thank you all for your gracious participation and patient hearing. Over to you, Devasis.
Thank you, madam, for so nice sum up of the program. Now it's the time to vote of thanks. Now, at first, I'd like to thank Dr. Simon Kumar Nath for sparing this time from his busy schedule and giving us so wonderful and informative talk. Thank you, sir. I thank Principal of Vishwanath College, Dr. Sintamani Sharma sir, for his nice welcome speech with indication of activities of IIT. Thank you so much, sir, also for your support and guidance for your in our activities. I'd like to thank Ravi Madam for showing some of the session. I thank Dr. Nilofer Seth for handling the technical part of this webinar. I am very much grateful to IIC Vishwanath member for active participation all our involved. Air conditioning of our server room is down, from which controlling the party is very hot and conditions. So thank you very much. Now, last but not the least, I am extending to all our esteemed participants of the webinar. Without active participation, this webinar would not have been a successful one. I am sure this session has given all of us a lot of new ideas and sources to think upon. With this, I conclude the webinar and I declare that this webinar has ended.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Devasis, and thank you to the team, entire team of the Vishwanath College, Sariali College, and yeah, thank you to all the participants. Thank you so much. See you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all, thank you organizers, and thank you research persons.